Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. Hey, Will Miles is back this week. It's been a bit with spring break happening, going on, spring practice kicking off for the Gators. We've the schedule's kind of been everywhere for us, but Will, after a couple of weeks, you're back on, and we got a special guest, cornerback Javion Toombs is joining us right here on Gators Breakdown. We'll get a player perspective and a walk-on perspective of what's going on through spring practice and what's going on with this team.
Yeah, man, it's always awesome to have somebody on who has much better insight than we do in terms of what's going on in spring practice, because the access that the media gets is relatively limited. We always like to call this lying season, where you see a couple of videos and go, "Ooh, that guy must really be progressing." And certainly, obviously, I don't expect Javion to give us a whole lot of negative news, but I'm sure he's going to be able to point out who's really excelling. So that'll be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the help of the Gator Collective, Javion Toombs joins us right here on Gators Breakdown. Everybody hit that like button. Everybody hit that subscribe button and subscribe to us on Gators Breakdown. But Javion, man, welcome to Gators Breakdown.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Hey, man, a lot of changes happened with you right around spring. Coaching changes there for the Gators. Of course, the defensive coordinator, Corey Raymond, taking over the entire secondary as well. We'll get into that, but you hit the practice field. What's practice been like so far for you?
Practice been, it's definitely been like a push, you know what I'm saying, like a test, you know. So you definitely got to come out, bring your all, because, you know, like with Napier, he like strives to make like practices harder than the actual game. So, you know, in practice, we working like way harder than we ever going to have to work when it's game time to make the games easier. So, you know, just got to keep your body right, drink your water, stay hydrated, and just come with it every day.
What's your personal goal this spring for yourself?
Personal goal, I say I want to earn my scholarship before the season starts, by this spring, after like spring game and stuff.
And, you know, Javion, we only really see Saturdays or video of practice. I'm wondering, can you take us sort of through what a typical day is during spring practice? Because, I mean, you guys obviously have class and workouts and all those different things sort of around it. I think a lot of us take for granted that, you know, all the different things that are pulling you in different directions, especially as a walk-on. Can you sort of walk us through what a typical day looks like this time of year for you guys?
All right, so on our practice days, we have different lift groups, 7, 8:30, 11:30, and 1. And then between it on your schedule, you get a lift group, and then you got either tutoring in the morning or you working out in the morning. But pretty much the morning is more for like school, you know, get your academics done or your tutoring. And then right around like 1:32-ish, we be at the facility. Like, then we got meetings all the way to like around like 3:30. And then we got practice, and then we don't be done with practice till probably like 6, around there. And then, you know, you got your recovery after practice and stuff, so we don't probably get out of the facility to about like 7:30-ish, you know. Then you eat, so you don't really get home, like chill out, have your own time till like 8:30. So, you know, you just got to get in a routine for that.
You're pretty worn out by 8:30, I assume.
Yeah, be ready to hit the bed and go ahead and repeat it.
Sounds good. So something not on repeat this year is Patrick Toney being defensive coordinator there for the Gators, and Austin Armstrong comes in and takes over. And look, we've heard from almost every player coming in, and Corey Raymond spoke to the media yesterday. Is Armstrong, is that reputation of kind of bouncing off the walls and the energy kind of he's inserted into this team? How do you see that? How do you portray that energy that he's bringing to the defensive side of the football?
Nah, yeah, he definitely lives up to the name. Like, he always brings the energy. Not one day you see him like just loafing, not just even like normal. Like, he always pumped up, hype, ready. You know, in the meetings he pumped up, getting us hype. You know, he just always making sure the energy like is above normal. You know, the first day he got here, he told us like the days of casual at Florida is over, and you know he just been living up to his word. So just got to keep it going.
For the football side of it, what's been we know the defense is mostly going to stay the same, but if there's a change that you've noticed in what he's brought besides the energy, what would that be?
not really much changes, but I would say like the names and stuff are more like correlated, so it's easier to understand for the players. To whereas last year it was kind of like just different names with no correlation for the plays. Like for instance, like it would be like a blitz called this play, and then it'd be another blitz, but like it'll have a completely different name. Like not that it's hard to remember, but like the way he does it just makes it a little bit simpler.
And before Will hops in, this was going to be your second year in this defense anyway, and for these players. Do you feel that more familiarity with this defense was just going to help anyway? But now you got a new voice to kind of express the second year in this same defense.
Yeah, I definitely got a way better understanding, like knowing the checks and all that. So I definitely feel like that'll be an impact this upcoming year for sure.
Well, Coach Raymond obviously got, I guess, promoted to more responsibility now with all the defensive backs under his wing. Have you noticed that the defensive backs are working more together than last year, or what's changed in terms of having Coach Raymond having more responsibilities with the defensive backs?
Definitely, I'd say like it's coming together more with like the cornerbacks and the safeties. Like every time we break down, it's a group breakdown, not just like a safety breakdown, corner breakdown. It's always together, not like individual breaking it up. Like us DBs, we like one this year, so I think that'll definitely like help us in the long run.
Javion, we know Corey Raymond's got that reputation of development that he had at LSU. Now he's bringing it to Florida. What do you like about working with Raymond? Is it that history that he has out there of putting so many guys in the league? How has he, in just your short time of being on this field for a year, how do you think he's made your game better?
Well, just like his resume, he was in the league. He made a name for himself in the league. Plus, like his reputation as a coach is he number one. Well, he was rated number one last time I checked the rankings. But he live up to that. Like every day he just coming in. He always gonna tell you something about life, and then he also gonna tell you like something about the game of football. He like the way he coaches. Like the game changes is not the same. Like you can't teach the same thing they've been teaching years ago. So like that's another reason I think like no coach better than him, because he's steady like evolving his game. He always open to learn more and try new things, but to do whatever's best for like how the game be evolving and just matching what today's date doing.
Yeah.
With that in mind, I mean, last year, obviously, a lot of criticism for the defense. If you could point to one thing, or maybe your coaches are pointing to what thing, what do you think you can attribute sort of those struggles to? Is there one thing, or is there a multitude of things that sort of led to the struggles? And what are you doing right now as an organization to sort of address those things that maybe the defense was deficient on last year?
I don't really know like what hurt us exactly, but I know one stat that we've been working on was our third down percentages. I can't remember the number, but it was like one of the worst in the country. So every day in practice, like before, like in the meetings before practice, Coach Armstrong emphasizing like when it's third down, like you got to own the field. Like it's a privilege to play on third down. When it's third down, like go out there, get that stop. So just every day, like when we see that 3 on the little marker, got to get the stop. We just really been emphasizing third down this year, because I think that was probably our biggest like setback last year.
Javion, let's go to some players back there in the secondary that you're back there with. Jason Marshall returns for his third season, and leading that cornerback group. What have you seen, maybe from his leadership, and now another year under Corey Raymond, his second year in this defense, and his third year overall, the growth from one Jason Marshall?
Definitely seeing improvements. Like technique wise, Corey Raymond like real strict on like technique, your steps, and where your eyes at, and what I'm saying, just making sure everything moving together. So you could definitely see the improvements like after just like over the years. This spring, he finally like getting all the tweaks and stuff, and you could just see it like, because when you come out in practice, he ain't giving up no catches, no nothing. Like he there everywhere, so you could definitely see the improvements with Corey Raymond's techniques and stuff.
Well, and obviously you've got Kamari Wilson and Miguell Mitchell at safety there. Who is there anybody in the secondary specifically that you think has really stood out the first couple of weeks of spring practice?
Definitely Kamari. Miguel too. Miguel made some plays. And then Jadarius Perkins, he been snapping. He been getting a lot of like forced fumbles and stuff. Good coverage, PBU. So definitely Perk, Miguel, and Kamara. Yeah, for sure.
Javion, I talked to you before this, but knowing some people who've been there at practice, you yourself been making plays since this spring practice, and I know an interception a couple practices ago. Just how has this this second year been for you? I mean, has the experience paid off to now where you see yourself making plays on a more consistent basis here in spring practice?
Yeah, definitely. Like comparing myself to where I was when I first got here, and then just now, like watching the film and going back, like my footwork's getting better, like my technique, stuff like that. But I just got to keep working. But yeah, I definitely see improvements. Especially with like having going on my second year with the playbook, it's way easier like to understand what routes I'm getting, what formation the offense coming out in. So I'm knowing like what's the possibilities of what they could run. So like definitely see improvements, but nowhere near where I want to be for sure.
I hear you. So Will and I, we got together before this. So we definitely want to get to know more about you. So that will be the first question. Kind of seeing where you're at this spring. But one thing Billy Napier has brought up, and he's emphasized the importance of walk-ons that he wants to have at Florida within this program. Saying that it's a critical aspect of the roster. And how has he shown that to you and other walk-ons in this program?
It's just like he just treat everybody the same. He makes sure like none of the walk-ons feel left out. Like you walking through the hallways, it's not like, oh, that's Coach Napier, he gonna walk by. Like, oh, that's Coach Napier, I gotta act like this. Everybody being themselves. He gonna talk to you the same, have a conversation with you, joke around with you. That's just like the way he is. Like he real big on like treating everybody the same, even like the janitors, the trainers, the nutritionists, like treating everybody the same, no matter what your name is, no matter who you are, So, yeah.
You said your goal was to get a scholarship coming here out of the spring. I mean, did you have offers other places, and sort of what colored your decision to come to Florida as a walk-on and decide to try to earn that scholarship?
Yeah, I had D2 offers and like NAIA offers. I was verbally committed to Kaiser, but I got a call from Florida, and they just telling me how like they like my film and stuff, and how they offered me a preferred walk-on. But I just like, I know my worth, and I just feel like I wanted to bet on myself because I know what I could do and what I could prove. So I came to Florida to do that.
I hear you, Javion. So, what's been the biggest challenge as a walk-on, maybe to compare to some other players out there? Is there any specific obstacles or difficulties that make it unique for walk-ons, or is it mostly the same? And if you have those obstacles there that maybe some other players don't have, how have you dealt with the challenges and the work that is there to overcome those?
I say the biggest obstacle is like rep wise, you might not get as many reps as like a 1 or a 2 when you first get in there, but like when you do get your like reps, when you do get your shot, you got to make the most of it. So like that's why it's always good like to know your playbook, get in the playbook, know the formations and stuff. So like when you do get your shot, you can make the most of it. So then if they do happen to call your number, you're ready at all times.
So what's changed between your last year and this year? I mean, obviously your knowledge of the playbook, your knowledge of the system, those sorts of things, but has your responsibility and your number of reps changed as you've gone from your first year to your second year?
Yeah, so this spring I was the first practice I was on the 2s and 3s field, and then D-Moore got hurt again, so then I had got moved to the 2s field, 1s and 2s field, and I was running with the 2s, and then that's where I've been at. So I definitely say I've been getting more reps this year, more responsibility because I've been running with the 2s. And we got the orange and blue game coming up, so that means a lot of reps in that game too. So just got to stay focused.
Javion, that's kind of where I was going to go next. You mentioned the orange and blue game, and we're going through spring practice here. Did you kind of have this as a benchmark for maybe your career? You know, this is being your second spring practice, this being your second year in this defense. You know, did you kind of set this, you know, hit this year as a benchmark and say, you know, if I'm going to make my mark, you know, spring practice is the time to make it. You're going to get them probably most of the reps here to go improve yourself.
Yeah, no doubt. That's definitely like where my thinking was. My exit meeting at the end of the season with Napier, he pretty much like stated like this spring should be like my like sprout year, like where like everything changed, like where it should be like a jump this year. So like, you know, I definitely been just trying to make the most of that. Like every rep I'm getting, I'm going hard, trying to, you know, make a name for myself, because now's the time. Like ain't no other time. Like it's the perfect time to get my reps, showcase what I could do. Orange and blue game we split, so that's even more reps for me. So just spring, like, you know, that's a real big thing for me. So I just been trying to stay locked there.
How hard is it when you're somebody? I mean, you come in, you're an all-state level player there in high school. Come in, how difficult is it to go from being a starter to somebody who's just fighting for reps, fighting up the depth chart? Did that get discouraging? And then sort of now that you're running with the ones and twos, to sort of make it all worth it now that you've gotten to that point?
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, it's times where like I'd be like kind of like just like thinking like dang, but like also like you gotta look at the good in every situation. So I'd be just thinking like my situation, like it's people who dreaming to be where I'm at. So like even though I'm not playing right now, it's people who like wishing to be in my shoes. So just being grateful for that and just continuing to work, you know, like yeah, I'm not in right now, but like at least I get to like be in this environment, you know what I'm saying? Like keep working, like one day my shot gonna come, just stay patient, you know.
Javion, has there been a moment, you know, of course, been, you know, it's here just a little over a year now. Was there a favorite moment so far that you've had in just this little over a year? And, you know, what's probably, you know, what's holding some meaning to you so far?
I'd probably say the Utah game, like just like when Bernie got the interception and just like the crowd and stuff like going wild. Like that's the first time when I've been in like a stadium with that many people, like a crowd that into a game, you know, like so it was just like a crazy moment for me. Like I had chills everywhere. And I'll probably say Gator walked that game too, like just seeing like all the fans and everybody like so happy to see you, and like, you know, that just like that was like lit. Yeah, that was lit.
So once you're on the field, what's your favorite situation or favorite type of coverage? Like, do you like when the tight end's coming across the middle and you get to drill him? Do you like coming up and run support? Like, do you like it when you're one-on-one on the outside in, you know, man cover zero? Like, what is the situation that when the coach makes the call or you see something that you saw on film and you know it's coming, that you start licking your chops because you're waiting for it to come?
Okay, for sure. When the receivers go like they'll go like a split, so they in a split, so like they'll probably be like lined up on the hash. So then I'm thinking I'm finna get like a crosser or like an inside release curl. I love when the receiver cut they split down because it only give them so many more routes to run. So yeah, that'd be my favorite right there.
You mentioned Devin Moore a bit, and he was a true freshman that came on the scene last year. He was making plays in that late Utah game that you mentioned, and he was getting plenty of hype going into that season as a true freshman. You mentioned the injury a bit. How's he bouncing back? And you know, was the hype that was there last year? Were you seeing it as well?
Nah, yeah, D Moore definitely. He got the most potential. I say, in my opinion, he probably the best corner in college. If you ask me, that's my boy though. But definitely, like he been working. You know, he been in the recovery room every day trying to get his shoulder back right and stuff. But you know, he a soldier. Like even when his shoulder like hurt, like he gonna keep going to the trainer to make him stop. You know, so like you could definitely tell that he wanted it and he got like that dog in him. But yeah, he definitely bouncing back for sure.
So your brother Dwight's a safety at FAU, right? So who's faster?
I want to say me now. Like in high school, I give it to him, but I don't think he can run with me no more.
Then who's a bigger hitter? Is it him or you?
The bigger hitter, me.
Yeah.
Me for sure. No doubt. He know that.
All right, I don't know if the coaches will like us putting you guys in a situation where you got to go hit something, but maybe we can set that race up somewhere after spring.
We definitely can.
Sounds good. Javion, let's go to spring practice a bit and keeping it going. A lot of early enrollee true freshmen for this class coming in. What are you doing? What are you sharing with those guys to help them get through these early reps that they're going through in their career right now?
Pretty much just like making sure like they in their playbook they know all the checks, like what to do if they got motion, because that's really all that matters. Like everybody here, we all know they can play ball. It's whether if not, like what you gonna do on the field, your assignment, like and just doing your job. So just like being there for them, like helping them with the playbook if they got any questions or like just like any little thing they need help with, because we don't got that many old guys no more with all the transfers we had. So like now we got to step in and play like bigger roles as sophomores and juniors and stuff like that.
Well, I'm glad that was one question I had too, and I wanted to go there. There was a lot made about the over 30 guys that were not part of this program anymore, and a lot of those being transfers, and of course some people out there wanted to label it as, some guys wanting to leave the program or, maybe something's wrong inside the building or whatever. How would you assess, the transfers out of the Florida program? We know a lot of them were from the previous staff, and, you didn't have much to do with that previous staff at all. You just coming in last year. Was it just, guys not fitting in play style? Was it just not, personalities just not meshing? How would you assess, why some of these transfers left the program?
I can't say all, but like majority of them was just like always in comparison to the way Dan Mullen would run the program. Just like for instance, we got practice at this time, and then we get like a break, and we got to come back later on in the day. They would just be like, "Nah, like Mullen to have us done by the morning. Like, why we got to do this? Just not trusting the process. Just always like having a negative mindset to things. I feel like that played a like part. So yeah, a little bit of that.
I mean, obviously there's a bunch of guys though who are participating in the pro day, who went to the NFL combine. How exciting is it to see, even in a year where Florida goes 6-7, to see that number of guys going to the combine? I mean, heck, it sounds like there's going to be 2, maybe even 3 first-round draft picks coming out of the Florida program. How exciting is it to see those guys being able to progress to that level?
That it is real cool, especially like some of the ones I'm close with. Like you see, like they life about to change. That's real happy. Like I'm happy for them boys. Like they work for that. It's finally paying off. Like that's everybody. Like we all dream of that as a kid, especially like first round. Like you can't ask for no better than that. So like that's just real. Like that's real good for them. Proud of them boys. Can't wait for pro day. I'm gonna be out there to support my boys.
Javion, we'll take it straight to you just a bit more before we sign off. Get you to sign off here on this episode. But what are you majoring in? What do you want to get out of your career here at Florida?
So my major is sports management with a minor in entrepreneurship.
What are you hoping to do with that?
I'm not really like too sure yet, but I know I want to start a business, like kind of sort of with like renting out houses and like renting out B&Bs, like real estate, kind of like mostly around that area.
So obviously the Gator Collective and sort of NIL in general, I think most of the fans' takes on that is the money aspect of it clearly. But what I'm curious about is, when you're talking about your entrepreneurship, your career goals, one of the big selling points, at least that we've heard from Billy Napier and the Florida program in general, is the support that they give for sort of the after football aspect of things. Can you speak to that a little bit in terms of what the collective and the program overall can do from the standpoint of your career goals, not just your career goals as an entrepreneur, not just necessarily as a football player?
Definitely like the Gator Collective, like we got a lot of fans and like alumni and people from all over, so it helps us because we get like more connections and like more people to reach out to for jobs all over the United States and everywhere. Like I know a couple of my friends who they got like business jobs, they got like landscaping jobs, like good paying jobs too, just off somebody who knew somebody related to the Gator Collective. So that's just good having that like extra help, like extra support branch, you know, to go to when you're looking for something to do after football.
Javion, with the Gator Collective, they've helped set this up. And hey, look, I mean, you've even, I believe, just within the last couple of months, I know you've been on different podcasts and, different media entities out there. Is it also helping you with those aspects, opportunities you otherwise wouldn't have gotten, without NIL and the Gator Collective going on? Just talk about, maybe even some of the responsibilities you have in getting with the Gator Collective and things you've been able to do since then.
So like, I would say the Gator Collective, like, they help me a lot. Like, they'll just reach out to different people, like different businesses, different like podcast and media people, and like just to help me get my name out there, get my brand out there, help me like promote myself and just help me. So shout out to them for that, for sure.
So I have a question, a little bit of a fun one here. Who do you think the funniest guy on the team is? Who keeps you guys loose? I mean, especially spring, there's not sort of that carrot at the end of the spring like there is in the fall where you got a big opening game in the Swamp, or this year a big opening game out in Salt Lake City. Who's the guy who keeps you loose when you're putting all this hard work?
I'll probably say Shamar James. Yeah, Shamar.
Yeah, we've had him on a couple Gator Collective events on Twitter Spaces, and he definitely seems to be one of the funniest ones out there.
Yeah.
Javion, I asked the players I have here on this one, and Billy Napier's going to let you pick the uniform that Florida's going to run out of the tunnel with. So what are you picking? Are you going orange helmet, white helmet, blue helmet? What color jersey? What color pants? If Billy Napier gave you the decision, what uniform you rocking?
All orange.
All orange.
All orange.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Is that what you wore on your visit? Did you have that for all the pictures and all that stuff? All orange?
I never wore the orange yet. I never wore the orange. That's why I really want to wear it. I never wore it yet. Never wore it.
Well, let's see if let's see. Well, I mean, the rumor is there's some black uniforms coming, so I don't know if you guys.
Yeah. I can't wait. Like, I hope we get them, because the all black, that's fire. That's fire. Yeah.
I mean, since Napier's come, we see the coaching staff in black all the time now, so it's just I guess it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, only a matter of time.
Will, you got anything else for Javion?
Well, I can't let you go. I can't let you go without asking this question, because it's the question that's on everybody's mind. How do the quarterbacks look?
There you go.
Okay. Quarterbacks looking good. I can honestly say they looking good. Right now, my favorite might be a little favoritism, but I would probably go Graham and Max. Like here right now.
That's how it's shaking out in practice a bit.
Yeah, in my opinion.
Okay. There we go. A little bit of insight there from Javion. We'll keep it on that side of the ball for a second, Javion. Is that running back tandem of Etienne and Johnson? Are they as hard to handle as it looks like there from us fans and from us media perspective?
Yeah, man, they definitely an elite duo. It's very fun to like duo like that. They definitely do some things that you don't see on the day-to-day like football basis. So yeah, them boys definitely special.
Do they let you know, or are they kind of quiet?
Nah, they pretty humble with it. They just keep it cool, keep it cool.
Sounds good. Javion, anything you want to tell Gator Nation out there?
No, thank you guys for supporting me. That's pretty much it.
I hear you, man. Javion Toombs, cornerback for the Florida Gators. We'll see him all spring long taking those reps. And, hey, man, we can't wait for the spring game, Javion. I'll be rooting for you out there and taking advantage of every rep that we'll see out there on that Thursday night. And thanks for hopping on Gators Breakdown with us.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
All right. Javion Toombs, everybody, right here on Gators Breakdown. Big thanks to him, Will, and the Gator Collective for helping us set that up. But Man, so good bit of insight there. I didn't mean to gloss over the quarterbacks. I did have it on my list there, but I'm glad you brought it back up.
Well, as someone who wrote an article about why I think Max Brown needs to start, I wanted to make sure I asked the question. That's interesting, right? It's interesting to hear him say that, and obviously he's one opinion, but it's interesting to hear that. I mean, I know there's been some question about with Brown playing baseball and really just a lack of depth at that position overall with only 3 guys, who might come in the transfer portal, all that sort of stuff. So getting an idea of where those guys stand. And I hadn't heard about the Devin Moore injury either. So, you may have heard of that, but that's interesting.
Of course, the one from last year, but yeah, like he said, maybe a re-aggravation or, maybe it's slowing him down a bit more this spring. Yeah.
Yeah. So, interesting that he's running with the ones and the twos and, I mean, everything we've heard about Armstrong is just energy. So, to hear that reinforced by a player, I think is a good sign considering that, in some cases, I think the defense sometimes snowballed last year, right? That just didn't have the ability to maintain confidence. You had the 2 games against A&M and South Carolina, sort of the second half against A&M, the game against South Carolina where everything went well. And then you come out in the next game and things are starting to go south and they just couldn't really sort of right the ship. So having a guy with energy who's going to come in there, simplify some of the terminology, make sure everybody knows where they're supposed to go. And if they button up some of those broken coverages, I think things can't help but get better. So encouraging to hear.
Yeah, we got plenty more on the defensive back. Corey Raymond speaking to the media yesterday, and also Miguell Mitchell. I'll get to hear from him for the first time. So, hey, we'll keep it on that train right there of the new defensive coordinator, Austin Armstrong. But, Corey Raymond goes into this experience. This is, the second year in this defense. While the defensive coordinator is changing, it's still defense isn't changing all that much. So Corey Raymond goes into how more experience is paying off. And then we hear from him and safety Miguell Mitchell on what defensive coordinator Austin Armstrong is like.
I mean, basically, we're still pretty much doing the same stuff we did last year. With Coach, he's taking the safeties. It's just we're all together doing it together. We have, maybe some more working together, cohesiveness, talking together. It was the same thing with Coach Toney. It wasn't nothing, it was just everything for last year was more being new than anything. And the guys getting it, and I think being a year in the system and not changing anything, I think you'll see a lot more improvements, because we had the good system last year. It's the same system from last year. It was really good. And I think that the guys are growing into it and understanding how to become professionals in it, and that's what's going to make them better.
What do you think of Coach Armstrong?
I mean, he's good. He works hard. You feel me? He works hard. He does. He's very, very high, enthusiastic. He gets into it, which is good. He got a lot of energy, so that's a good thing. And he brought energy.
His playing philosophy seems to be pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
What does that what responsibility? What does that require?
I mean, we're just gonna. Secondary, you're gonna have to be in situations where you're gonna have to, you're gonna have some one-on-one matchups, and you're gonna have to win.
He said last week that not a lot of defenses are going to be multidimensional in the front and the back. What does that mean for you?
Oh, well, I mean, you're going to do a little bit of everything, dab in a little bit of different defensive because it comes from a lot of things that have been, where he came from, a little bit where Aranda came from. It's all a lot of defenses that are mixed together, so you see a lot of different things. And so, it's adjustment. The good thing is the kids already were introduced to it by Coach Toney, which he did a good job in doing that, and I think that it's making them better.
With players on an island, though, back to that. Talk about that for just a sec, but also what is that? What do you need to see from players to have the
now it was the fact that they understand the techniques we were trying to teach them. I think they're understanding everything that what we want, what we're trying to get accomplished, and I think that's what they're comfortable with now. So you see them playing a little bit more faster. You see them compete more. You see them doing all the little things to get better.
Yeah, he brings a lot of energy every day. I love Coach Armstrong. So crazy story. He recruited me back in high school over at Southern Miss, so I kind of had a relationship with him already, so it just carried over really here, so I got kind of lucky in that department.
How beneficial is that for you as a player, having that connection a little bit more?
Yeah, it really helped because, I didn't really have to, learn him. I kind of already knew much about him, so when he got him, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's easy for me. I ain't really have to make an adjustment, really. So,
what'd you know about him at Southern Miss? I mean, what'd you think of him there? And he obviously had a lot of success in that 1 year.
Yeah, he was a great coach over there. I ended up choosing Florida, but he was just a great coach over there, and he recruited me a lot. So, he was up there with me all the time.
But what did you dislike about him? I mean, just personality-wise, scheme-wise, what kind of drew you to him? Because Southern Miss is not beating Florida for most.
Yeah, he's a really aggressive. He calls aggressive. He's gonna go after the quarterback. I kind of like that. I like playing man a lot, so that favors me a lot.
Other coaches, other players describe him as high energy too. Like, what's his coaching style like in terms of how he gets on you guys?
So one little small thing is like when we start the unit meetings, he starts with music. So that's kind of like his energy way. He brings in the music. Everybody's hyping up. Yeah.
What kind of music?
Whatever we like, whatever he lets us pick. So, Little Baby, whatever's popping at the time. You know what I'm saying?
There you go, Will. And even sounds like the players are having a little bit more fun with Austin Armstrong. Look, I've seen the videos and the pictures floating on social media the last couple of days, and you can tell there is a bit of a different energy that you hope feeds off into these players. But hey, look, Will, there's two reasons, right? We should see more aggression. Austin Armstrong is one of them, but we heard Javion say it, and it kind of just speaks to it as well. I mean, this is the second year in the system. Guys should be more comfortable. They should know their assignments, and that should allow them to be more aggressive. No matter who the defensive coordinator would be this year, some more confidence should lead to some more aggression there, I think, on that end too. So, I think play faster, play more confident because of this second year in the same system, and also because of Austin Armstrong's, more aggressive philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously when we look at sort of the combine performances of some of the guys in the secondary last year, you look at the 40 times and say, okay, there just wasn't the recovery time when you made a mistake, right? So everybody's learning a brand new system, but you sort of rely on the guys with more experience to make less mistakes, even though you might have more physically gifted guys sitting behind them. Well, now those more physically gifted guys have 2 years in the system or are going into their second year in the system. And so the mental mistakes that maybe were there last year on the practice field that we didn't necessarily see week to week, all of a sudden are going to be gone, or at least are going to be minimized. And you're going to have guys who are more physically gifted. I don't think there's any doubt that guys like Kamari Wilson are more physically gifted than Trey Dean and Rashad Torrance and Trevez Johnson. Now, look, I mean, those guys had a lot of experience, though, and those guys played pretty well a couple of years ago, not necessarily in 21, or in 20, but in 21, the secondary was actually pretty good. Obviously, last year it struggled. So I think in many ways, though, the commentary that we had with Javion there, I think maybe even be more relevant, right, is that the attitude and the culture of the organization is dictated by how everyone is bought in. And so if there were people grumbling about how Dan Mullen and his staff would have used to have done something last year, well, you can imagine how that might transfer over into the performance on the field. Again, you might say, well, you got to put the young guys in, but you don't want to put a young guy in there and like ruin his confidence and make him doubt himself if you're not winning a championship. And so, get those guys, season them, get them trained up and get them out there. And I think that's what we're going to see this year at safety with Wilson and Mitchell and some of the other guys as well, right? That, the hope is that the experience is going to catch up to the athletic ability, and having some catch-up ability, especially in the SEC, because you're going to make mistakes, right? The receiver's going to turn your hips in the wrong direction. Like, there are going to be times where you need recovery speed, and these guys, I think, are going to be able to show that a little bit more this year.
Yeah, and we'll get into that plenty. We'll hear from Corey Raymond and Mitchell coming up here in just a second on some players back there. But you heard Miguell Mitchell just a second ago, and hey, Corey Raymond discussed him. He's going to play safety instead of star. He did play a little bit of star last year. He played a little bit of safety last year. Would he kind of maybe bleed over? But no, Corey Raymond said safety is his position. He's star is more of a quicker, faster, big guy. But he's so fast and big, he can do all that, but he'll be potent where he's at safety. So Corey Raymond, his plan as overseer now of the entire secondary is Miguell Mitchell is going to be a safety here. And look, he came on at the end of last year, found ways to cause some turnovers, played both nickel and star there, get some clarification that Raymond likes him at safety. So, it's kind of now as we go through spring practice here, we get some clarifications of some position fits now back here on the back end. We get Mitchell at safety. We get Jaden Hill at star from last week. And hey, look, now we'll get to hear from Corey Raymond on Jaden Hill's play at star and other players, Jason Marshall, Devin Moore, true freshman Jakeem Jackson. And then Mitchell comes back in and follows that up with his thoughts on the secondary and all these early enrollee freshmen.
Gives that extra, additive guy that's a twitchy guy inside that can blitz, that can do something, that can cover inside and slot man to man, and it fits his body style. It's going to fit him, and I think he's going to prosper in that position.
Is there one guy that you've got that you say you had him last year and you look at and you say, wow, he's just really turned the page and really made dramatic improvement?
Well, I say Jason Marshall. He's got better, you know what I'm saying, as the season started progression. You saw the climb in his play, which, you know, he was a highly recruited guy. Everybody recruited him. And you see that coming out right now.
In what ways?
From just being a pro, you know, doing everything the right way, working extra, working hard at practice, doing all those little things. That's what he's doing. That it's like he's ready to be a professional, and he's working like that to be a professional.
You guys lost a lot of guys. I mean, you lost some key guys, but you didn't go hit the portal. So
no.
What's that say about the guys you haven't?
Yeah,
coming in?
I'm a guy. I just believe in the guys I recruit. You know what I'm saying? That's what you homebred. This is just, you get those guys and you develop them. Everything is all going to be about development, and I think the guys want that. You know, most time the guys trying to poke our guys.
Speaking of that, Jakeem Jackson, where's he at right now?
Oh, he's coming along really good. He's going to be real good. He has a chance to be special. We just got to keep him going, keep him understanding what we want, the details of playing the position, because at the end of the day, it's about your athleticism, but there's a lot of details in the position that you have to learn, and it's going to be changing every play because, you know, things change and you got to be able to change quick, so you got to be a critical thinker, and that's what he's starting to learn, how to become a critical thinker.
Do you think he'll be able to play as a true freshman?
Yeah, he'll get some playing time. We've got some really good guys here, and he'll you know, I think he'll get in there.
How did you identify him in the recruiting process?
Receiver. He played receiver, then he moved to DB, but you saw the traits. And then, like you say, you saw the traits that he had, and you know, I thought that he was a really good player in high school. Once he started playing the position, now you see the how he's growing. And you know, he had some guys working with him outside of that did a good job with him, and help him with his fundamentals. And those guys down there did a good job with him.
I think it was great that Coach Raymond got promoted over all the DBs. You know, he's got a lot of experience. He's coached a lot of good players, and he knows what it takes to get all of us to that elite level.
What's his defense going to require from the secondary? I mean, guys are going to end up on an island maybe a little bit more sometimes because of the aggressiveness of the scheme, it sounds like.
Yeah, just the regular fundamentals, communication, tackling is going to be an important one. Getting everybody lined up, making sure everybody's in the right spots, and make sure not beating ourselves, just getting the MAs right.
How much does that fall on you, like the lining guys up since you're on the back end?
Yeah, that's that's like our main job really, since we're like the quarterback of the defense, so that's been our main job. One of our big focuses of the spring is communication, just getting everybody lined up on defense.
With Rashad and Trey gone, how much do you view this as an opportunity for you right now?
Those guys had a lot of experience. You know, I learned a lot from those guys, and just stepping in, taking that role, taking over what I learned as a freshman, bringing it into the sophomore year. I'm excited to see what I can do.
Kamari, in terms of your communication with them, I mean, you guys played together some last year. It looks like we're going to be playing together a lot. What's that like, and have you guys kind of created a little bond, you think?
Yeah, we got a good relationship out the field. I'm with them pretty much all the time. You could say we always buddy all the time.
Okay. Yeah. How about on the field in terms of like how you guys are communicating, you think?
Yeah, we try to so what we've been doing, we try to play like left and right. I mean, we both pretty much load the defense pretty much well, so we just try to communicate and stay on the same page all the time.
The new class, what are they showing you so far?
I think that's a really good group of freshmen. Yeah, they're coming in. They know more than I expected coming in as a freshman. You know, most of them are already here, coming in that early enrollees. So that would be big going into the season, is that they'll get that extra time over the people coming in May. You know.
Some guys are saying that they're bringing like a new kind of energy into the program. Yeah. Are you feeling that at all?
Yeah, for sure. They coming in locked in. They're ready to work. They got a different mindset to them. They got this work mentality, and that's kind of what we need.
What they need, Will, and absolutely. I mean, there is a lot of youth on that back end for the Gators. That's why there's so many early enrollees, true freshmen early enrollees. But, hey, look, Kamari Wilson, Miguell Mitchell, they were contributors last season, played a lot of football last season as true freshmen. Now they're starting at safety. They were true freshmen last year. Now they come in as sophomores, and they're both starting at those safety spots. But, look, they have familiarity with this defense. So you hope that pays off their second year in the system. Young guys there. Elsewhere you have the experience, Jason Marshall, Jaden Hill, Jadarius Perkins. But besides those guys, Will, it is youthfulness going on there. You have a guy as a second-year Gator, Jalen Kimber, but this is he's played some football at Georgia as well, of course, but his second year as a Gator. You got second-year overall Devin Moore, and then the slew of early enrollee true freshmen that were just brought up: Jakeem Jackson, Jordan Castell, Sharif Denson, Bryce Thornton, Aaron Gates. So, Will, while it is a second season in this defense for some, Florida, at times they're going to have to rely on players getting their very first reps in spring practice right now, and extend that to linebacker transfers to Roger Mitchell, Deuce Spurlock, Jaden Robinson is a true freshman, Caleb Banks, Cam Jackson up front as transfers. They'll be relied on. So hopefully the growing pains of last year with everything being so new doesn't show up this year. But this will be a defense with some new faces. There'll be some large roles played by those new faces, whether they're a transfer, whether they're true freshmen, or we're just some young guys in their in their second season. So while there is a lot of familiarity for many, a lot of contributors are going to be playing their first snaps in this defense.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I think that's sort of the theme for the entire team overall. It's not just the defense. I mean, if I look at it, I've got 53 guys on my count out of the scholarship players that are on here who are either freshmen, redshirt freshmen, or sophomores, which means you're going with a youth movement, and that's sort of been the direction that Napier and company have taken since the start. I think that one of the things that's interesting is, you mentioned the safeties, Mitchell specifically, the fact that you talked about and that Raymond talked about, no, he's a safety. We're not going to hybrid him between safety and star. I actually think that's important when you've got the youth, right? That what you can't do is try to teach a guy 6 positions if you need him to know what he's going to do and execute well at one. And, throughout the entire Grantham era, and then last year with Toney, there was an awful lot of guys moving around, having to be able to play multiple positions. Even if you go back to like Amari Burney, a guy who originally they talked about, well, we're going to have him flex between a safety and a linebacker. And I don't know that it's a coincidence that it took until his 5th year in the program to really start to take real steps forward as a linebacker. And so you think about Mitchell. If you have him learning both star and safety and you say, well, now I want you to play safety full time, it's going to be a tough adjustment. So doing it in the spring and then saying, hey, look, we're going to have depth charts at each of these positions, but you're going to know that position well, I think is probably a better way to do things than saying, hey, this guy has some skills we could use here, some skills we could use here, and we're going to kind of try to cut the corner with a hybrid player who can take both positions. Now, obviously, you're going to have guys who can fill in if you've got injuries and those sorts of things. But in terms of focus during the spring, making sure that everybody gets the most reps they can, I think it's way more effective to get a guy like Mitchell a bunch of reps at safety than it is to get him some reps at safety, some reps at star, and sort of move him around a lot. So I'm actually really excited to hear those sorts of comments, that they're focusing in on making sure that they have one specific position for these guys, right? The Jaden Hill is the star. Okay, great. He's going to learn that position. And if they have to move him outside, okay, they'll do it. But I think for the most part, they're going to hope that they have at least a 2 deep at both cornerback positions so that Jaden Hill can stay at the star, learn the star, excel at the star, and not have some of the communication and execution issues that they had last year just because of knowledge of the defense.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm big on those safeties too, Will, of some familiarity, getting a lot of experience last year. Those guys are going to play safety now. As you mentioned, the Hill star is interesting. I'll admit, and to see if he has, I think there's a mentality that goes to play along with that position there, and of course some little injury history there too. We'll see how he feels in there. But we heard Javion say, he likes what Perkins has been doing there as well. Now we've seen a lot more of him on the field the last couple of years, not necessarily really able to break through and become that consistent starter. Can he now, under this new look secondary with Corey Raymond, new DC, Austin Armstrong, find a more consistent role out there on the field as well. So, yeah, very interesting comments also with all those early enrollees. And look, we heard Andy Jean and Kelby Collins and those guys right before spring practice started through the Gator Collective of like, hey, they want that attitude. They want the attitude of bringing a kind of new vibe in. We heard the vibe wasn't so well, as you brought up, Will, and Javion brought up the transfers heading out, where there's some new guys, new blood coming in, and they do seem to be, bringing this kind of new mindset into this team for what Billy Napier's looking for in players and guys ready to hit the field and ready to contribute. And look, for the secondary, I mean, I'll go through the names, one more time, but Jakeem Jackson, Jordan Castell, Sharif Denson, Bryce Thornton, Aaron Gates. I mean, those guys are getting early enrollee spring reps. And you hope by the time fall rolls around, those guys are ready to contribute, because Florida's going to need one or two of those guys at some point this season back there in that secondary.
Well, I mean, look, you can't have 6 guys who are freshmen and redshirt freshmen at a particular position and not have them contribute. They have to contribute. There's no depth otherwise, right? And so I think Miguell Mitchell and Kamari Wilson are going to be in fantastic shape, but they're going to need a playoff every once in a while, or they're going to get nicked up every once in a while. Now, the good news is you can probably get through the Utah game with minimal rotations if you have to, and then you obviously have the I think it's McNeese State coming up week 2, where you've got a little bit of a cupcake where you can get these guys' feet wet in the swamp, that sort of stuff. But Florida, they hit the ground running this year. They're on the road at Utah to start with, and so if there are any injuries in spring, you need these guys to step in. You may have guys who are really, really young starting a game on the road in Utah right away, and then
week 3. They got to be ready for that Tennessee passing attack. I mean, it's like you just said, it is growing up fast for this young group.
Well, the good news is that as much as people like to throw shade at Hendon Hooker, I don't know that Joe Milton's necessarily going to be able to reproduce that. It's still going to be a good offense. I don't think it's going to be as good as last year.
Right.
But again, I look back at when you think about, especially against the Tennessee, if you go back and watch that Tennessee tape, a lot of Florida's mistakes there were communication mistakes, not physical errors. And so freshmen who come in, especially in the spring who enroll early, you would expect them to have a few of those, but not continuous. And so by the time you get 3, 4, 5 games in, those things should pretty much have resolved themselves. And that was one of the things I think that was kind of disturbing last year, is those never really resolved themselves throughout the course of the year. So, look, I think when you've got this level of youth, there's not going to be any sacred cows. There's not going to be anybody out there who we can't remove you. It's like, no, we've got everybody here is the same exact age. Everybody here has the same exact number of reps. We're going to put the best player in. And if you make the mental mistakes that everybody made last year, you're going to have somebody right behind him to bring in. So I think the level of competition at that position is going to be really, really high. Now, what's the ceiling? I don't know, because, obviously the competition within the room, this is always the question you have in the spring game, right? When the offense sputters, you're like, well, was it the defense was great? Or if the offense torches the defense, well, is it because the offense is good? Like, you're always asking that question. You're going to ask that question coming out of spring camp all the time. But these guys were promised an opportunity to try to get a starting spot early, and they're going to compete for it. And they have to see it, right? In practice, these true freshmen are coming in, sitting there going with the 1s and the 2s, because at the end of the day, that's where the depth chart sort of lies. And so you're going to get that level of competition. So I'm excited to see what happens there, with a bunch of those young guys, especially. Jakeem Jackson is the one that I look at and just go, Nick Newsom.
He's going to be too good to keep off the field, Will. And where it is, he's producing interceptions in spring camp already. So coming along pretty fast, the fast riser of the last recruiting class.
Well, Nick Knudsen sent me some video of him when he went and saw him in high school, and let's just say that it jumped, right? Like the video he was showing me from the high school game just jumped off the tape. He was also a wide receiver there in high school too, so he's somebody who knows that position from that side. And that can only help you as a cornerback when you're trying to figure out exactly what routes somebody go on and things like that. I thought it was interesting that Javion, basically, when I asked him his favorite formation, it was a film formation. It was something where you see the splits, you see where the guys line up, and that tells you what the routes are and what the route combinations will be for the guy who's coming out. That's interesting, right? Because it means that, in terms of the coaching staff, that's what they're trying to get these guys up on, right? Is don't try to guard the entire route tree. You see from their formation, this is what you're going to get. And to have someone light up and say, hey, that's the thing that I enjoy, and the thing that I'm proud of is being able to see from the pre-snap alignment what's coming. So look, you get a guy like Jakeem Jackson who's got those kind of physical skills. If he can pick up that stuff that Javion was talking about there earlier, then I think you've got a real dynamic combination there from knowing what route's coming and then having the physical skills to take advantage of it.
Yeah, plenty young talent coming in. I'm eager to see those guys in that orange and blue game. This secondary group was highly regarded. Of course, Cormani McLean recruitment happens, and some other targets out there. Of course, now Mitchell getting in trouble at Bama, and all that stuff. Maybe it works out best for Florida in the end. Will with a lot of those names that we were discussing here. As I said, Jakeem Jackson, the riser throughout the class. Sharif Denson, kind of the utility player back there. Castile and Thornton, being able to probably get some safety reps coming up as well. Aaron Gates, throw him in there too. Those names I'm eager to see when Florida lines up on that Thursday night in the orange and blue game. What early enrollees maybe come out of that with a little more stature in their name, and hopefully translate somewhere down the line in the fall. So, Will, before we sign off on this, you asked Javion the question about quarterbacks, and your latest at Read Reaction, throwing in Max Brown's name into the quarterback rotation, maybe more so than others out there. But hey, Javion maybe even confirmed it a bit. Max Brown doing some work there this spring.
Look, man, you look at his high school stats, and everybody always gets mad at me when I use high school stats, but two things. One, that's all we have. And two, his are really impressive. Like, he completed 72% of his throws in high school. Go outside, set someone up 15 yards from you, and try to throw it to him. Right? Like anybody who watched Anthony Richardson's pro day knows he airmailed a couple of those guys during, and in fact, we had Florida State fans trolling us on Twitter, showing video of him airmailing guys. Look, it's hard against air to hit 70+% of your passes. And that doesn't mean I think he'll complete 70% of his passes at Florida. But what it suggests to me is that he makes good decisions and he goes through his progressions. And he's not a guy, a lot of times you see a guy who's like in the 1500s overall from a recruiting ranking perspective. And you go, okay, he's got limitations in terms of his physical ability, his running ability, or even his arm strength. And that's not what you see on tape. What you see is a guy who's a baseball player who started playing football when he was a junior in high school, and at times was able to use his physical gifts in a lower division in Oklahoma in order to sort of mask some of the deficiencies in terms of his ability to read the defense and those sorts of things. But, look, I like the fact that he's playing baseball. I think that's somebody who's competitive. I think that's somebody who's not going to back away when there's a challenge in front of him, right? A lot of people would slink away and say, well, if I want to win the quarterback position, I guess I shouldn't go after this other thing that I want. Brown said, screw it, I'm going to go for it. Right. And so I like that moxie part of it as well. And then the other thing is just, I think I have real concerns, as most of the fan base does, I think, about Graham Mertz and what he was able to put on film at Wisconsin. And, I was looking, Wisconsin had 2 top 10 defenses and a defense that was 17th in the 3 years that Mertz was there. And I think they went 20-13. And so, I get it. The Wisconsin offense is not that imaginative, and everything was under center, and they definitely did not put him in the best situation to succeed. But I think there's a ceiling there that is limited, I guess might be the way to put it. And maybe that's what Florida needs, is consistent, have Mertz take a jump to where he's got a QB rating in like the 135 to 140 range, and then he's just consistent. That it's that way, whether you're playing Vanderbilt, whether you're playing LSU, whether you're playing McNeese State, that's consistent along the way. Because a lot of Florida's losses last year came because Anthony Richardson wasn't consistent. In one game he'd be great, the next game he wouldn't be. Maybe you get that same volatility with a guy like Brown, but I just look at it and say, from a ceiling perspective, he's the best prospect they have on the roster right now. And so, people I think need to be prepared that I would be surprised if he doesn't get real snaps during the season this year that matter.
Will, do you erase so much of what Graham Mertz was able to do in high school because he's so far removed from it?
I mean, I think I go back to what he did in high school, and the statistics typically would suggest that he would have had about a 1 in 4 shot of being a star.
Yeah.
And so then you look at the 3 years at Wisconsin and go, okay, he was the 75% who's not. And maybe he proves me wrong. Maybe he turns out to Oregon and all of a sudden seeing a major jump in all of his accuracy statistics and a major jump in really every statistic for Nick's out at Oregon. But then I also look at it and I go, Nick's went from Auburn,
right,
where he was playing Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, all the SEC.
Well, he played Georgia game 1, and it wasn't.
That didn't look real great.
Right.
Yeah. So it turns out that his play against the SEC last year, not so great, but then goes out to the Pac-12 and succeeds. That's my worry, right? My worry is that yes, the Wisconsin offense was limiting, But now you're coming from the Big Ten, where look, a bunch of your games are going to be against Purdue and Indiana and Rutgers and Maryland and Nebraska. There ain't any of those in the SEC. Maybe Vanderbilt, right? But I mean, I think we all know that the SEC, I mean, if you start ticking off the recruiting rankings, you get to like 25th in the recruiting rankings, you're like 12 SEC teams in. So the talent deficit between the Big Ten and the SEC is real and significant. Now, between Ohio State and the SEC or Michigan and the SEC, that difference isn't all that much. But there's a reason why Wisconsin rarely wins the Big Ten and doesn't get to the and doesn't get to the playoff. And there's a reason why Michigan State sort of got to the playoff once and then sort of fell off. There's just a huge talent deficit between those two. The front end and the back end of that conference are it's pretty top heavy. It's not the way it is in the SEC. So look, can I see Mertz taking a step forward? Yes, I can. The point that I was making in the article is that even if he takes a step forward, because he's got negative rushing yards for his career, that even if he takes a step forward, you're looking at like average quarterback play at best. And so if that's what you need to go 8-4 because you've got a defense that's improved significantly, then okay, maybe that's what you do. But if you're going to need to get into shootouts, I think you're really going to struggle with him behind center. And so that's the thing, is you got to kind of gauge where you are on the defensive side of the ball to say, can I get away with, does a game manager make me 8-4 or 9-3, or does a game manager put me at 6-6? And if a game manager puts you at 6-6, then take the shot with the guy who's maybe a high variance prospect, but somebody who at least you'll know by the end of the year whether Max Brown is the guy, or you go, hey, DJ Lagway, the job's wide open for you in 2024, and everybody's still excited to do that, right? You're no longer having a quarterback battle or anything. It's Lagway's to win if Brown is able to wrestle the job away from the other two guys who are there. Or again, I mean, Napier's talked about bringing in a transfer prospect, and maybe that's the option as well. But without having that prospect in camp, I look at the three of them and say, if I had to pick one, it'd be Brown based on the statistical profile. Obviously, he's got to prove that in camp.
There we go. So if you want a different look at the quarterback competition this spring, Will throws out really good analysis of one Max Brown and maybe how he could contribute to that quarterback battle. So, all right, there we go. Will and I back together. Will, we've talked, but enjoying a little bit of time off.
No, because we got our preseason magazine that Nick and I are working on, so that'll be coming out around Memorial Day, and we'll have more announcements for that. But and baseball season's starting, so the kids are all of a sudden. I got to wake up early this morning and rewatch the Ohtani Trout at bat with my kid because he's a huge Ohtani fan. So it never ends, man. 4 kids around here, so there's always something going on. But it's I will admit it's nice sometimes to have an evening off where you're not live here on Gators Breakdown, but you don't know what that's like because you're here, 24/7, man. Like if the spring practice started, I was like, man, Dave has put out a ton of content. All this stuff's going on. So you kind of got spring break last week, maybe to slow you down a little bit.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it did enjoy some time with my daughter out of school, and my wife and I went down to Orlando for a few days. So yeah, but now back at it till that Thursday night Orange and Blue game. So. Yep. Don't slow down.
Gonna be fun, man. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Everybody keep the conversation going at Gators Breakdown Plus. If you want ad-free versions of Gators Breakdown audio, you can get it there as well. For Will Miles, you can find him on Twitter at WillMilesSEC and his site, readreaction.com. I'm David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. How's it goes out there? Thank you for joining us on this episode of Gators Breakdown.